Previously on Caution Do Not Open.
Like learning how to survive, it's how do you not lose your mind?
Without a social aspect, that's
Yeah.
true. And now, Grayson has a question for everyone. Before we begin, please note that this is a comedy podcast. Our opinions in this episode do not represent our actual views. Please follow your local health agency's requirements for the COVID-19 pandemic.
I did want to ask this question beforehand. This is just a really quick one. If everybody if we could jump into the future and record how many people die of COVID, and then we went back to today, and everybody who was going to die of COVID instantly today died of COVID, do you think the world would be better or worse?
If, we eradicated COVID, everyone who was going to die, died today, COVID exists no more, would the world be better?
Retroactively, every single person who is going to die of COVID, does die of COVID, drops dead today.
Think of those funeral homes, yikes.
Good business.
You're
Sorry, I'm more of a technical guy.
I think
you're not wrong,
Adam,
but there's not enough resources.
I think there's a difference between good business and too much business.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, I think it'd be one of those, once again, where you're overwhelmed at first, but you'll eventually get through it.
Well, you also have to think like what's the benefit to it happening now versus letting it run its course, you know?
I think the benefit is that the people who were going to get infected and died it's all said and done. We don't have to worry about wearing masks going to school in the fall. We don't have to worry about any more of the COVID precautions, any more of that stuff. It's just over, done with, and it's something that's happened and is in the past. I think that'd be one of the benefits to it.
Another thing, it would also be good because if they'll die immediately, you'd have more time to rebuild, to try and get everything running again.
That's true, because you'd have a massive shortage of employees.
But that's what I'm saying. Do the benefits outweigh the risks, or outweigh the cost? And I mean, one, is it really that beneficial to have however many people just fall over right now? Or does it make sense to not have that? Because if everybody were to fall over right now, let's say I don't even know what the fatality rate is. Let's say it's 1% and 1 million people were infected, which I know is not right? But that's 100,000 people right then, just down immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it would make more. At least in my opinion, it would not outweigh the benefits of getting everything back up and running, because we already have most things running well enough right now anyway. That everybody dropping like that and then having to get everything back up and running the way it used to be could be more effort than just keeping the way things are.
So, do you think it would be more beneficial if this retroactive, mass COVID death happened at the very beginning of the pandemic? It was just one day and it's over?
Yeah, definitely. But I think at this point we've been going how many months now? It's at this point we're in a rhythm. We're in a, we're going along with life as we normally would, just with different things in place. But if it was first day, we wouldn't be used to this, and we'd still have everything set up the way it should be with people not wearing masks and everything.
That's true.
Because, another thing is because since how everything's going on, we're trying to keep that curve down of how many people are getting infected. And if people just drop, that curve is not going to be there. But the curve still, I don't know how I'm trying to word this, but the curve, we're trying to keep that down as much as possible. But with that curve, more people are, if people are still alive today, more people working. Let's say a whole bunch of doctors die. Who's going to save the people from other things? A whole bunch of doctors. What happens if they get infected later? They can at least save people today. Let's say they get infected in, not right now, but let's say they get infected in a few months. They can still save people today, and within those few months, But if they drop today, all those people that they would have saved died.
Yeah.
And then it also comes down to the point where not everybody who gets it dies, and it can still spread through people who don't die. So the question is, if everybody who's going to die from it died today, that doesn't necessarily stop the spread either.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, but if everybody dropped dead immediately who was going to die of COVID, I think that implies that nobody else is going to die of COVID.
Yeah,
Like,
but I mean,
they
COVID
could still get it. They could still get it for sure. But like, the worst of it would be over, is what I'm saying.
What happens if it was like one of us?
bad
You
luck.
know, I was about to bring that up as a joint question. Is if you heard about this mass COVID death thing going on, like,
Okay, wait, hold on.
death.
Before you ask that, so is it COVID? Is it COVID just killing us, or are we killing them?
No. I'm saying, like, right now they just dropped dead of, I guess, unknown causes, but everybody technically knows it's COVID. I was about to work out the logistics of that, but I'm saying, like, if you knew this mass death was going to happen and one of your family members just immediately dropped dead, would you be surprised, or would you be like, oh yeah, that's about right?
Both. You would be like, oh yeah, that's about right, but dang.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean,
And
obviously there's the surprise, but I mean, like, would it be understandable that they died of COVID, or?
It depends on the family member, to be honest, because
That's what I was going to say.
because like my grandparents, yeah, that makes sense. My little brother also kind of makes sense. It'd be heartbreaking, but it makes sense. Now, my mom, on the other hand, no, she hardly gets sick. That'd be an absolute shock.
Yeah, same here. My mom is a custodian. She cleans like these schools every day. She's never gotten sick really. So that wouldn't really make sense.
And again, like I mentioned, my little brother who's high risk. If he dropped dead because of COVID, again, heartbreaking, but it makes sense because his lungs have been a problem since he was born. So
It depends on the person, and there's a lot of different variables in that, like you guys said.
I'm just going to point out, I'm going to all of the pet stores and just grabbing all of the dog food to live off of.
Nice.
Period. End of story.
But
Grab the good kind.
Grayson, for your thing, you're saying we go into the future and we know who's going to die?
Well, I mean, we don't necessarily have to go into the future. I'm just saying, like, if somehow we knew exactly who would die of COVID, every single person on this earth who would die of COVID in the future, just drop dead. You know, if we knew and they just dropped dead, that's the scenario.
Oh, okay, I get it. I was gonna say, because if we go in the future, why not just go until we had a cure? I was like, loophole, but nope, never mind.
Rewrite the history that hasn't even happened yet.
Or here's a theory, and
the butterfly effect.
here's the theory. Instead of going forward in the future, why don't we just go back in the future and realize how dumb everybody was at the beginning and change what we did at the beginning to prevent it from happening the way
Go
it
back
did?
to the past and just prevent COVID from existing in general.
Or not
You're
even
going back
preventing
to
it from existing, but knowing how our response was wrong and looking at countries that had really good responses and what they did
And implementing that, yeah.
and implement
believe
that instead.
Who's gonna believe us?
Me going back to the past. Stop that soup.
You know, because like look at like New Zealand or like Singapore, they did really well with containing and controlling it and stuff. But I think it also then goes to say those countries, and here in America we have 300 million people. Those countries maybe have, let's say, 10 million. So you have to scale everything too.
Plus, if you go back and then go back and then you come back, who are you gonna tell that's gonna believe you and to put all these things in effect?
Yourself?
You have a phone, record it.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining the podcast today. Once again, people on this call was Amber.
Hey.
We had Adam.
It's me.
We had Joey.
No.
We had Jackson. He said something, but it didn't come through. And then we had There he is. And then we had Grayson.
Hey.
Thank you guys so much for listening. If you did enjoy, be sure you share the podcast with someone. And we will see you guys in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Leave us a message at anchor.fm/CDNO podcast. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at CDNO podcast.